to the channel. It's time to get caught up on the state of the world, because there's nothing new under the sun, and all that happened before is happening again. Essential services, the looming closing of national parks, talk of stimulus checks, talk of warp speed vaccines, albeit this time with an artificial intelligence twist. You guys, we have been here before, haven't we? In 2020. Different circumstances, but nobody can deny that we've been here before. We're also going to cover today a bizarre AI-generated video that Trump shared on about his development plan for GAZA. Notice we're still having to use coded language. What happened to all this talk of getting rid of censorship? It's exactly the same as it was before. This is what I keep telling you guys. It doesn't matter who's in power. It's going to be the same thing over and over again. In fact, it's going to get worse. Today, we're also going to cover the Grok3 Saturnalia logo, which is Grok3 is Trump, which is Elon Musk's AI. So we're going to cover that today. And you're not going to believe this. Breaking news. Trump has a mysterious mark. A bruise on his right hand. Now, let's get started today, you guys. Good morning. The word is on the street. You better hold off on your plans for the summer. Why? Because national parks are under threat of being closed. Washington, D.C. school tours under threat of being closed. Federal buildings. Now, why is this happening? Well, of course, because of the Doge cuts. All this happened before, during the pandemic. And here we are. Everything is grossly understaffed and outright dangerous to be around in some instances, as these skeleton crews are left behind as the government undergoes an overhaul. Now, don't get me wrong, this needed to happen, but it's the speed and the shocking nature of how it's happened. Now, what else is going on? We remember during the pandemic, they closed all the national parks. Now, right now, the parks are open, but at some point, the gates will close, because if there's no one to staff the park, what is the park ranger going to do? If they can't police the park, they're going to close it, aren't they? Think about it. Think about hundreds of thousands of people in the summer going to visit a national park, and there's only 3 or 4 people managing the whole park. They're not going to let that happen. They're going to close the park, aren't they? Now, this is going to decimate summer travel plans and decimate the summer travel economy, right? Which for most people includes either a national park visit. A lot of people like to go to DC and see all the old buildings. And it appears as though all of that's under threat unless things go back to somewhat normal. And unless, Trump and Musk can quickly resolve the situation and either replace it with artificial intelligence, which we know a lot of these jobs are going to be replaced with AI, or get the right people in to manage the parks, right? Now, make no mistake, as I said, there's probably a lot of bloat going on in these parks, a lot of extra staff that's not needed. But we also have to admit that right now they're going through with a hatchet and just getting rid of everybody. Now, we all know that government bureaucracy needed to be drastically reduced, but I fear that the speed at which all of this is happening suggests that something else is at play here. Namely, AI replacing a lot of this stuff. Now, there are some good things about this. Small businesses should thrive over the summer, shouldn't it? They should get a boost from, the people that are, out, have no other choice but to opt for smaller venues for travel instead of going to a national park or going to DC and spending all their money. So maybe small businesses will get a boost. Let's read a little bit about this before we get into the rest of the stories today. How the Trump and Doge cuts could ruin national parks this summer. Thousands of Park Service and forest employees have been fired recently, leaving only a skeleton crew at many national parks to clean bathrooms, maintain trails, or save lives. So again, you've got a huge influx of people this summer, and there's just not enough to keep up with it. So at the least, you're going to go into a dump of a national park with overflowing trash cans and all that kind of stuff. And at the most, they'll probably just simply close the park. And that's what I think they'll probably do. Let's keep reading here. Before he lost his job in the mass firings by the Trump administration last Friday, Nate Vance was the only locksmith for hundreds of buildings and millions of visitors at Yosemite. Imagine a city-sized place with one locksmith for all those people. He said, when there's a car accident and an emergency medical person can't get into a vehicle or can't get into the supplies they need, they would call me. Now, with the nearest cities hours away, there's no one who can easily do the same work. So this is one example of a situation that just won't be good, right? Now, everybody knows that when you fire a bunch of people while also replacing others' jobs with AI, it creates a lot of unemployment, right? Well, they're starting to now acknowledge that. This is out of Fox News. The impending AI-driven jobless economy. Who will pay taxes? Let's play this video. I think this is Vance. Now, Vance is on board with limiting AI regulation. And this is diametrically opposed to the message that we've talked about here, that it needs to be regulated. We don't want AI running wild, taking jobs, replacing humans. I don't think anybody signed up for that. But yet, Vance is like, nope, you should deregulate AI. Let us do what we want. And we're supposed to trust these people, right? It says here, whether it's taxing AI work or something else, we need to come up with a plan to start implementing it now. Now, Trump has already removed most of the regulations on AI. So this whole jobless thing is only going to intensify in the coming years, as essentially we're witnessing an AI takeover of jobs. Now I want to go back to yesterday because we did a video re-upload from 3 years ago, in which we noticed a lot of synchronicities between Trump and Damien Thorn of Omen. That was the re-upload yesterday. Let me go back into the chat. Talk to you guys for a bit before we keep going. And Thorn Industries was the name of the Antichrist's company in the Omen film. It was a world organization that thrived off of people's misfortune and pain. The Thorn Industries Omen. And so I looked this up because I wanted to figure this out. But apparently, Thorn Industries got rich on electronics. Electronics. And Thorn Industries of Omen was likely fashioned after the real electronic company, Thorn Electrical Industries. It was the closest thing I could find to this. What did Thorn Electrical Industries do in real life? They made light bulbs. You know, it's interesting that Trump is bringing back incandescent bulbs, even though nobody makes them anymore. But this is what he says he's doing. I'm sure companies will start making them again, or maybe they won't. But this is crazy. Thorn Electrical Industries. Started out making light bulbs. Anyway, during the premiere yesterday, I had an unrelated epiphany about Trump and these tariffs that he's now implementing that is positioning him and America to be the king of the world. The word tariff contains double consonant pair of letters, FF, of course. Tariff, TARIFF. And we all know that FF alphanumerically is 66. F is the sixth letter of the alphabet. Now, hold that in your brain for a minute, because when Trump was allegedly shot, what did he say? Fight, fight, fight. There's the FF again, this time a triple F. We also know from our past research, and also the makers of Back to the Future admit, that Trump is BIFF. BIFF is another double F. So now we have tariffs, we have BIFF. And guess what? Next door to Trump Tower is TIFFANYs. So we have a third FF. Synchronicity. Now, I was like going down this rabbit hole and I was like, this is getting really weird. Because then I found that the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's was based on a 1958 novel. Here it is right here. 1958. Now, that was a pivotal year, of course. It marked kind of the beginning of the life of Trump, because he would win the first election 58 years after 1958, and he would win his second election 66 years after 1958. And then it all hit me. All at once. FF is fast forward. Remember the old VCR players many of us grew up in the 90s? Fast forward is back to the future. Warp speed. This is crazy, you guys. Look at the two buildings with Tiffany's right next to it. Trump Tower and the IBM Superman building with Tiffany's. FF, fast forward. Now, this had to have been one of the most profound discoveries that we made on the channel when it relates to Trump anyway, because we actually drew a line through the center to see where these buildings actually pointed to. And the closest landmark that we found of significance was Brookhaven National Laboratory, but more specifically, Tesla's museum on Long Island. These arrows point to Tesla's museum on Long Island. Now let's back up, because this Trump Tower on the left is both 58 stories and 66 stories tall. It's the way that Trump numbered the floors. He has a 66th floor penthouse, but the building is officially 58 stories tall. And remember, he won 58 years after 58 and 66 years after 58. Except this building was built in 1983. How did he know? How did he know he would be 58 and 66 presidents? The Matrix is a crazy place, isn't it? Now, what does all this mean? It means that there is something supernatural happening here, isn't there? That's exactly what it has to mean. Now, let's keep going with this. Let me check in with you guys and we'll keep going here. I wanted to expand on this Trump Russian spy story because, as we covered a couple shows ago, someone has come out and said that Trump was a Russian spy. And they gave him a code name. And they say this happened when he was about 40 years old, that the Russians approached him and made a deal with him. And guess what? The code name they gave him was KRASNOV. Now I'm going to spell it in the chat here. KRASNOV. Now I was like, that sounds familiar. I've heard that before. Guess what? Here's the Russian spy connection. KRASNOV. This just broke a couple days ago, February 23rd, 2025. Does this look familiar to you? Let's go into the chat and see who gets the answer, and then I'll give it to you. But one of you already knows. What is KRASNOV? Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, we're going to look at the GAZA video at the end of the show today. I'm saving the best for last. Thanks, R. Jones. You're absolutely 100% correct. Let's take a look at Melania Trump. And this begs the question. This is her maiden name. And you can clearly see KRASNOV in her former maiden name, KNAVS. In fact, the only two letters that are missing is OR. KRASNOV or KNAVS. Is Melania the secret connection, pulling the puppet strings of the connection between Trump and Russia? Always remember, it's the quiet ones who are typically in control. They don't say much because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. Creepy, right? Now, what else is going on? Let's keep going with this Trump tracker today because let's take a look here. What do we have here? Oh, here's one. They tried to sneak past us. Now, we called this out during the Trump appointments, right when he was picking his cabinet just before the inauguration, I believe, is when all this went down. And one of you found that, we're supposed to believe that, as conservatives, that, we all know that George Soros was the one funding all of the unrest under Trump's first presidency. I mean, whole cities were being burnt down because of people that were bussed in by George Soros. And we're supposed to believe that Trump hates Soros and Soros hates Trump because they seemed to be working against one another, right? Well, except that Trump hired George Soros's protege into his cabinet. Now, you can say what you want. Oh, he's just keeping his enemies closer. Whatever. You want to keep believing those lies? Go for it. But the truth is that all these people are on the same side. They need opposition so that they can push through their agenda. So they create opposition. They work together to create opposition. Let's read. A hallmark of President-elect Trump's time in politics has been his consistent insistence on pushing anti-conspiracy theories about George Soros, the Hungarian-born Jewish billionaire, financier, and philanthropist. Now, since then, we look at this is from 2024. So notice how they flip-flop this. We go from anti-S word to now we all see what's happening. And we'll get into that at the end of the show with this, Trump's alliance with the country that shall not be named. But now, it says in 2018, the then president said he wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that Soros was paying for the caravan of Central American migrants making its way toward the U.S. border. So all of these accusations came out against Soros, but then, for some reason, he now has hired Soros' protege. Trump's appointment of Soros' protege tells us about the right's real priorities. Why elevate one of his colleagues? Now, most conservatives are not going to show you this. They're not going to show you this because they don't want to make Trump look bad. But there's questions here, aren't they? There are a lot of questions. Now, let's get into some other news. Here's a recent story that just came out February 23rd. Breast cancer is rising in young American women, and we don't know why. Nobody wants to talk about the obvious. Nobody wants to talk about the timing of all this. Now, this data here, it's interesting because they mix it with pre-COVID and post-COVID. And I feel like they did this intentionally. So they go back in time, years and years before COVID, to actually try to show this increase in cancer, breast cancer, young people. What they should have done is look at the period from 2020 to the present and compare that to before 2020, right? That would give us a more accurate analysis of maybe a trigger or a cause to all this. I'll link this story. I'm not going to get weighed down in the statistics of all this, but they're now saying breast cancer in young people has jumped significantly. We all know why, but they'll never admit it. What else is going on? Let's take a look here. Oh, by now you've all seen this. The Grok3 chatbot logo. Now, this is obvious Saturn worship. That's the first thing that you see when you see the Grok logo. This is a chatbot, Elon Musk's chatbot. This is what it looks like. It says to understand. Shows a lone man looking up into the black night sky. I mean, this has all kinds of connotations in it. This could be wormwood approaching from Revelation. Who knows what they're depicting here? But I can tell you this. This exact image was generated from the film Interstellar. It came out in 2014. And in the movie, the black hole, it's a black hole that takes astronauts to an alternate universe in space and time. It's literally a portal. Now, we've done a lot of work on Saturn. A lot of decodes on Saturn in the past. The north and south poles of Saturn. The north pole is a hexagonally shaped storm. The south pole is an eye. Looks like your eye. Eyes are portals. They're windows to the soul. And I told you back then in 2013, maybe 2014, that there's something about Saturn that seems to be projecting onto our reality. That the storm at the North Pole of Saturn that is shaped like a hexagon was likely due to somatics or frequencies. We even found the frequency of Saturn, and we saw how that could be influencing our natural reality. And then we thought, well, Saturn is likely sin. It could be the dark star that is creating time on Earth, which is why it's called Kronos. How can I say all that, and how does that fit into the Bible? Well, when Adam and Eve ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and God told them that they would surely die, I believe that what was placed on Earth, or whatever portal they went through into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, was managed and dictated by linear time. And this is why our time is different than heavenly time. This is why people are confused about where we're at in the timeline. This is why Jesus could actually say that many of you will not taste death before my return. And when Stephen was stoned, what did he see? He saw Jesus sitting at the right hand of God, as if the kingdom had already been established. He saw Jesus in the clouds. How can that be when the rest of us had to continue living through the timeline? How can that be if Jesus' kingdom was established, that you and I are stuck here? And even after the stoning of Stephen, there was no 1,000 years of peace, because after that came the prosecution of the church, much more death. All the other disciples died or martyred, except for a few. How could that have all still taken place if Jesus was already seated? It's because we're stuck in the timeline. We have to finish out our lives before the end. And so this tells me there's an influence of sin, an influence of time. So there's a couple things at play here in this image, aren't there? And I believe it's the somatic frequencies at the North Pole of Saturn. Let's look at some pictures of the North Pole of Saturn. This wasn't supposed to be a whole show about Saturn. North Pole Saturn storm. But this is important to remember. This was one of our very first videos in like 2013 when the channel started. We started in 2012, but here is the image of the pole of Saturn. There's one at the North Pole and one at the South Pole. Picture's always worth 1,000 words, isn't it? And the North Pole is this hexagon. The South Pole is an eye, essentially. And somatic frequencies essentially use sound to self-organize particles into geometric shapes that shouldn't exist. How can a random sound create a geometric shape that is unnatural? It shouldn't, right? But yet it does, which tells you there's something else at play. Now, I showed you guys in those old decode videos proof of this phenomenon here on Earth, and how possibly Saturn is, look at it like maybe a dark angel that is managing time on Earth when we're stuck in the sin dimension. Okay, God didn't really create it, but it's the result of sin, right? It's the result of rebellion. So we're stuck here. And so essentially Saturn is like a dark angel of some kind, and it's projecting a frequency. And we see this frequency, don't we? Look around you. Where do you see hexagons? Let's see who's awake today. Where do we see hexagons in nature? All right. Good morning, everybody. Where do we see hexagons in nature? Yeah, Saturn is losing its rings. And the outer ring of Saturn is not a ring. We've made that discovery. It's called the F ring, but it's not a ring. It's actually a spiral. Just like a record player. If you were to put a needle on the outer ring of Saturn, it would swirl around Saturn toward the center like a record player. Yes, beehives are hexagonal. There's also, I actually witnessed this with my own eyes. Some kind of insect laid eggs underneath the eave of one of my porches. And it was laid in the perfect pattern of a hexagon. Hundreds of eggs in the pattern of a hexagon. We also have snowflakes. Every single snowflake is made in the pattern of a hexagon. Let's take a look. Yet every single one is unique. Now, when I observed this, and other people had observed this before me, but these are truths that you come upon in which you realize that all is not what it seems. Every single snowflake manifests as a basic hexagonal shape, 6 sides. but with infinite variations. Every single one is different. If this alone proves there's a God. It's almost as if he's peeking through to show us that there's still hope, even though we live in the hex. Now, what does the hex represent? Why would the sin frequency manifest as a hexagon? Well, think of the hex that witches put on people. It's a curse. The curse of sin, the curse of death. Hexagons also manifest as cubes. And this is why the enemy loves cubes. Cubes are the trap. It's the three-dimensional manifestation of a hexagon. It's essentially a 3D cube, isn't it? So that's just a little bit more on the esoterics of this and how it fits into the Bible, which is very important. Now, what else is going on? Good morning. So those are my thoughts on the Grok3 and what all that means. It's a portal. And AI is essentially trying to open a portal through space and time. This is why Musk chose this. Now in the movie, they fly a spaceship right along the event horizon of this black hole, and they go through space and time to other worlds and other dimensions and other times. Here's the Wikipedia page on Grok3. It was established on November 3rd. Wait a minute. I think November 3rd does it have 58 days left in the year? I think it does. That's significant as well. That number, 58 again. Let's look it up. November 3rd. Yes, November 3rd has 58 days remaining in the year. These dates are important and significant. Remember the number 66 we talked about as well? Well, when Trump was 66 years old on his birthday, on Trump's 66th birthday, is when Obama signed the beams, the World Trade Center. Here it is right here. History cannot be denied. When you have eyes to see, you understand what all this means. Wow. These people all work together. This is why Obama signed it on Trump's birthday. I'll put a link to all this stuff for you guys. And thanks to the subscribers who leave comments. Oftentimes in the morning, I will go in and look at the comments, and it adds to the show. So many of the things that we covered today were left in the comments just like literally an hour ago. So thanks to that. Now, let's save the best for last. Many of you are chomping at the bit. Casey, show us this AI video. Well, here it is, you guys. Trump shared this on Truth Social just hours ago. It's an AI-generated video of his GAZA plan. I have not watched this yet, so we're going to play it and decode it. Hopefully, we're going to play it. Let's see if hopefully we don't have technical difficulties here. But let's take a look. It says Trump faces Truth Social backlash over AI video of GAZA with topless Netanyahu and bearded belly dancers. Users of president's own social media site criticized the video showing reimagined GAZA featuring Trump and Israeli Prime Minister sipping cocktails. Let me check in with you guys and then we'll play this. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? Play the video already, Casey. Hold on, let's let this chat catch up. Wow. Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the right track here. Oh yeah, there was also a bruise on his right hand. We're going to cover that as well. Biff Tannen Did you guys understand the FF connection? It's very, very important. It is key to understanding all this. It's the fast forward. It's everything's warp speed with Trump. This is why he's done so much in the first 30 days of his presidency. This is why he developed the smaccination at warp speed. You guys, this is heading somewhere. It's supernatural. It's a sign and a wonder. Think about that for a second. How fast he's doing everything. Some people are saying, how can he be all these places at once? He has boundless energy for his age. Boundless energy. All right, let's first take a look at this bruise, and then we'll watch the video. White House says that a large bruise on Trump's hand is from shaking hands all day, every day. Look at this. A bruise on the back of his right hand. Remember, it was his right ear that allegedly got shocked. Now, people saw this bruise during the interview with Macron at the White House. Look at the size of that bruise. That's not from shaking hands. On the mark on the right hand. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. Holy smokes. That looks like a V for visitors. Right there. Whoa. What the heck is happening here? Now, let's watch this video. Please play. There we go. 54 seconds. Let's fix this. Hold on. Fix this. Okay, good.
Soros coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels,
I'm gonna turn this sound off just in case try to copyright us. Let's turn that off there. Okay, so this is AI generated. They show Elon Musk here eating something. It must be some kind of, and there's bearded belly dancers. Whoa. What is happening here? And ooh, balloons, huh? Helium. Remember Helios and all the stuff we talked about Trump? Helios is Apollo, helium mined with methane. And I showed you how methane is the gas of death. Bearded belly dancers here, which is also, that's, Trump shared this, you guys. I told you. Remember we talked about Trump's purple lavender side? He pretends to be against all of this, but really he's for it. Let's keep going. Bearded belly dancers. Golden helium balloons. And this is supposed to be the rebuilt GAZA, like a Riviera. You guys, this is sick on so many levels. All of the death. I don't even know how many people have died. What is it? Millions? What? Is this the bearded belly? Was that a bearded belly dancer he was talking to? Let's back this up. Elon Musk throwing mud. No, she's not bearded. Okay, let's back this up. We don't want to spread misinformation here. This is so creepy. So he's just with some belly dancer, which is just not right. Elon Musk throwing all his money around. Children, oh, look at, we're going to get all this money. Do we really think they're going to move these people back in after all this is rebuilt? Of course they're not. Whoa, look at that. Like some kind of hotel. Wait a minute. What? It almost looks like a goat head above it, like a Baphomet or something. I can't confirm that, but It's a general shape. Let's keep watching here. This is shocking. He's eating some kind of, whatever that is. Whoa, golden statue of Trump. Wow. Back this up a little bit. Sorry, guys. Yep, there you go. Golden calf. Golden statues for sale. More money. Money, money, money. This is money worship. Remember, Trump shared this. Please, please read your Bible about what it says about riches. There they are sipping in front of a hotel. Him and Netanyahu. What is this? I can't tell what that is back there. More hotels. A heart balloon. Okay. I'm going to turn off the closed caption. We can see this better. Wow. It's maybe a casino. Video echoes U.S. President's recent comment on the future of Grasa. We're just going to call it Grasa. Wow. So that's it, you guys. What are your thoughts on that? Did I miss something? You guys, if we're not looking at this stuff, not many people are. Shocking, isn't it? The truth is now coming out. And a lot of this is stuff we warned about years ago. Yes, all the children that died there. And so, yes, that absolutely fits into the balloons, the helium, the death. They're basically creating it off of the gases of death. Now, if you hadn't seen our helium videos, the first glimpse we got that helium and methane played a role. Let me just quickly go over it because some of you are a little bit lost about that. We actually predicted the pandemic. Remember, I uploaded some videos just before the pandemic. It was probably about 2 years before. And we had discovered this phenomenon of 99 red balloons, which we later realized was the Johns Hopkins death map, which looks like a bunch of red balloons. But we didn't know it at the time. And we did a video from the Metallica music video, All Nightmare Long, in which they show balloons flying over the jet stream from Japan and China to America, which is the exact route that they tell us that the coronavirus took. It started in Seattle, as many of you remember, and it moved east across the United States, from what we're told. Now, I don't believe any of that, but this is what we're told to believe. We were even tracking flu seasons going into the spam-demic. Australia had a particularly bad flu season the year before the spam-demic. Many of you will remember that. And they were tying red balloons to sewer grates. For those of you that live in Australia, you remember that. And I told you that something was coming. And then we saw the NASA eclipse where they attached these spores onto balloons and they flew them along the eclipse path. Remember that? Well, all of that came to pass. All of it came to pass, didn't it? And so we began to dig deeper into what helium actually meant. We're like, okay, the key has to be helium because that's the common theme. Remember the Chinese helium balloons? All of it's related. And then we found that helium was named after Helios, the sun god, who is an alternative version of Apollo. We also found that helium was mined out of the ground with methane, which was a gas of death. We then found the It Matrix, the It Clown. Stephen King's It. And he says, you'll float too. He would say this to the children. Where was the it clown? Where was Pennywise? In the sewer, in the swamp. And these gases of death come out of swamps and sewers, don't they? This is where we get, because it's decomposing matter, decomposing death in the swamp. And we were like, whoa, Pennywise. And then we tracked back the Pennywise clown and we realized, looking at the lore of Pennywise the clown and how he came out every 27 years, and we tracked it back to the birth of the first Pennywise, Abraham Lincoln. So it's interesting that the penny has now been canceled, isn't it? So that's the it matrix. And it's interesting now we have to call the it, don't we? Because you're not even allowed to say it. If you think about it, even artificial intelligence is an it. If you think about pronouns, it's not a he or a she or they, it's an it. Because it's not human. Yes, Dr. Sleep, it's all linked together. The essence of death, it's almost, I don't like to call it the spirit of the dead, but this is how they look at it. Okay, it's the essence of death, and they build off of this. So let's go back to Trump's AI video. He's literally building off of the death, and he shows it in the balloons, or the AI did anyway. Unbelievable. Sacrifice. All right, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Does all this make sense to you? Now understand that everything we talked about today was built off of an entire decade of research. We don't just throw these associations together lightly. We've seen countless reiterations of this information in programming, repeated over and over and over again, which confirms the general concepts. So it's not just us pulling things out of thin air to make it fit a narrative. We've seen it. You guys even showed me video games with children holding red balloons. We even decoded the Moulin Rouge, the French film about a boy following a red balloon around. And it goes on and on and on. It's connected on an occult spiritual level. And until we understand what these people are up to, then people will still keep believing these politicians. They'll still keep believing Trump and believing Biden, whatever the next Democrat candidate they throw at us. Until you realize how they're all working together to advance us toward AI. Biden was already working on Stargate AI at the end of his presidency and just literally handed it off to Trump. Those aren't my words. You can listen to the billionaires talking about Stargate AI in videos from 2024 and 2023. I didn't say it. They did. Yeah, we're working on Stargate AI. It's going to be the next big thing. We're already building data centers during the Biden presidency. You've got to wake up. All right. I'm back in the chat. The president's car called the Beast. Yeah, I think it's always called that, despite whatever president there is. They all call it the Beast. Biden wasn't doing anything. I don't understand. Yes, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, he's just the empty shell. He's the puppet master. But notice how much more involved Trump is, connected to everything, versus Biden. Biden was just a kind of an empty suit. Other people were running the country, obviously, but it just goes to show you. All right. The Stargate show actually refers to the Stargate as a portal for Abaddon. Wow, thanks, Meg. A bad dawn. Thorn Electric Company, Crown of Thorns. Yes. Yeah, it's strange that it's always been called the Beast, isn't it? All right. Okay, you guys, I'll put links to everything in the pinned comment as I always do. Likely be back on here tomorrow. I may do. You remember we did the V re-upload, the visitor re-upload about the med beds yesterday. I may find the video that I did right after that because it sounded interesting about the V series. So I may re-upload that for tomorrow. Okay. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Much love. Take care.